We are literally hours away from a ceasefire between the United States and Iran expiring. Things could get very, very serious. And in this explainer, we're going to break down how we got here and what might happen next as that clock ticks down.
So what happens when a ceasefire just ends? It's the question on everyone's mind. On one hand, you have a path to a really fragile peace. On the other, open conflict. With diplomacy basically collapsing and military tensions flaring up, the world is holding its breath.
Okay, so there's this 2-week truce, right? It started back on April 8th, and it's all set to expire tomorrow. It was supposed to de-escalate a really devastating conflict, but instead of cooling things down, it feels like it's just pushed everyone right back to the edge.
So let's dive right in. How is this ceasefire already falling apart? Well, it's a mix of a really intense war of words and some serious action happening out on the high seas.
Okay, so let's start with the U.S. side of things. This quote from President Trump, it basically lays out the entire American strategy. This isn't just about military action. This is economic warfare, plain and simple. By saying the blockade is absolutely destroying Iran, the U.S. is making it crystal clear there are no negotiations until they get the deal they want.
And here's the other side of that coin. Iran's parliament speaker, Mohammad Bakir Kalibaf, is being just as blunt. When he warns about new cards on the battlefield, what he's really saying is, push us and we're ready to fight back. They are absolutely not going to be bullied into a deal.
And listen, this isn't just a bunch of tough talk. Things are already happening. Just a couple of days ago, on April 20th, a U.S. destroyer actually fired on and seized an Iranian tanker right in the Strait of Hormuz. So you have the U.S. saying, hey, we're just enforcing the blockade, while Iran is calling it armed piracy and promising to get even. The ceasefire is already being tested big time.
So how in the world did we get to such a dangerous point? I mean, a standoff like this doesn't just happen overnight. To really get what's at stake here, we've got to take a quick look back at the brutal conflict that even made this ceasefire necessary in the first place.
Yeah, that month-long war was absolutely devastating. But what's really fascinating, and what this table shows so clearly, is that both sides can't even agree on how bad it was. Just look at these numbers. The claims on casualties, the economic damage, they are worlds apart. It's a perfect example of how there's an intense information war being fought right alongside the real one.
Okay, so the bottom line is this conflict completely redrew the map in the region. I mean, think about it. The assassination of Iran's supreme leader, which led to his son taking over, a massive global fuel crisis that hit everybody's wallets, and all of it leads right to the standoff we have today. Iran shuts down the Strait of Hormuz, and the U.S. hits back with a full-on naval blockade.
And that brings us right to the heart of this whole mess, both geographically and economically. The Strait of Hormuz. This little waterway is probably the most important choke point for oil in the entire world.
And this number right here, this is why this whole situation matters to you no matter where you live. 20%. A full fifth of the world's entire oil supply has to pass through that tiny strait. So whoever controls it, well, they have a huge amount of leverage over the global economy. It's that simple.
And the main weapon the U.S. is using to flex its muscle here? It's this naval blockade. So what does that mean? It means they're basically trying to economically choke Iran by stopping ships from going in or out. The goal is to squeeze them so hard they have no choice but to come back to the negotiating table, but on America's terms.
Which brings us right back to where we are today. We have this deep diplomatic stalemate, and a peaceful way out is looking less and less likely as that ceasefire deadline gets closer and closer.
This slide really just lays out the whole problem perfectly. You can see how far apart they are. The U.S. says the blockade stays until we get a new deal, and they're trying to spin it as a better version of the old Iran nuclear deal, the JCPOA. But from Iran's perspective, they're saying you can't negotiate with a gun to our head. They see it as a table of surrender. And the result? Peace talks that were supposed to happen in Pakistan are basically dead in the water. Iranian state media is even saying Tehran isn't even planning to show up.
All right, so let's wrap this up. Let's put all the pieces together and look at this final countdown, because what we're looking at could be a truly catastrophic failure of this ceasefire.
This timeline really paints a picture of just how fast things have gone downhill. It's been less than 2 weeks, you guys. We went from a ceasefire starting, to a tanker being seized, to threats being traded, to talks collapsing. And now, here we are. The deadline is tomorrow, less than 24 hours away.
So this is the question we're all left with, right? You've got talks that are completely stalled. You have threats escalating every single day.
Is the world about to watch this ceasefire just completely collapse? Both sides are digging in their heels. Diplomacy seems to have